My fellow freedom loving cyber thinkers. This is LO3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Wednesday, February 28th, 2018. Yeah, it's warm, chilling. The spring breakers are coming down. A few of them came from Ohio, which is pretty cute. Good folks. And the beach volleyball major series happening in Fort Lauderdale Beach from now to the 4th of March. So people down in South Florida, check it out. I'm going to have to go there and see for myself. I'm at Stash Coffee and Den Shops, like a nightclub, coffee shop in the heart of Fort Lauderdale. Advanced it with Revolution Live and America's Backyard, right in the Himmershey district of Fort Lauderdale, downtown to be exact. So check it out, the historical landmark. Yeah, so I'm not going to go too fancy today and just check out a few areas. I'm still going to talk about the legislation and firearm laws and all that, referendums, which I see a lot of it's meaningless. Because, like I said before, man can be the most vicious animal of all, historically speaking. Furthermore, we cannot rely on underdog to save us. We got to do it ourselves and help protect others. But I'm just chilling here and say this in love and good faith. I did enough of going Scott Israel bashing. There's another time for that. The war is not over. So that's all a matter of principles. So I'm gonna went on this site here, and it's about from the Liberty First Network. This came out yesterday. It's about an update on gun reform legislation in response to Parkland shooting. And it's from Alice Stinker. Actually, he ran for the Senate. Stinker, yeah. He ran for the Senate on the Libertarian Party, president of the Liberty First Network. And it's mainly about in reference to Senate Bill 7026. It says here, the Florida Senate Rules Committee heard gun reform bills Monday to address the Parkland shooting. All gun reform bills were combined into one bill, SB 726, and passed out of the Senate Rules Committee. I hate when they compress everything, like too many headaches, I would say. But Liberty First Network agrees with Florida legislation needs to seek legislation that ensures our schools are safe and our children are protected. At the same time, we must make sure any reforms also protect the right of the people to protect themselves and their families and their right to own and bear arms. Monday, John and Danielle and I visited the members of the Senate Appropriations Committee with our list of recommendations. You can click here to see our legislative handout. Any legislation must reflect certain truths. All citizens have natural right to protect themselves. We know banning guns will lead to a black market and make guns more accessible and easier to get. And it's absolutely true. Let's look what study the 1920s on the prohibition of alcohol. The 18th Amendment to be exact. We know the faster as we take down the shooter, the more people we can save. Knowing this, the Florida legislature must end gun-free zones, which only work to create easy targets for shooters, knowing they will have the least resistance. And to be very frank, the past 3 shootings in Florida, including the 2 occurred in Broward County, were in firearm-free zones, 790.06, subsection 12A. First-time listeners, for the first-time listeners, folks, I know a lot of you may hear my show and repeat it. Forgive me, but it's for the first-time listeners. The Florida legislature should make every school has either armed security or that designed and trained school employees are permitted to carry a concealed weapon. Again, rapid response will save lives. Meaningless gun control schemes will only make us more vulnerable to tragic events like Parkland School Massacre. Here are different parts of SB 7026, and where we oppose or support. Oppose. We oppose a 3-day waiting period and increasing the minimum age for purchasing a firearm to 21 years. This will only punish law-abiding citizens and will not have any effect on reducing violent acts. Those seeking to do harm will have no problem finding these weapons outside of a legal firearm store. There are no waiting periods and background checks in the black market. And that's a fact, because for long-range rifles, you'd be 18. And interesting about it, they're trying to do on the state level a 3-day waiting period for those particular firearms. And I will be talking about Broward County Ordinance 18-96, which is a 5-day waiting period for all firearms. But I will talk about that later. We support fortifying schools, security, including school resource officers, and requiring officers to respond in active shooter situations. Student badge entrance systems. Enhance emergency locking systems for classroom doors. Bulletproof glass on entrance doors. Require school safety plans. Training. Teacher and faculty training on active shooter procedures. Student drills on active shooter procedures. Designate armed staff marshals screened and trained by law enforcement. Training for staff on procedures for elevating and responding to student having violent or mental health episode. Coordination, sharing, and other system improvements. Establish a commission to evaluate system failures in communication and response to active shooter events in Florida. Mental health. Law enforcement does need to take more seriously a person who has a history of antisocial behavior. But our law enforcement cannot be expected to find every single person who may or may not be a threat. This is simply unrealistic. The idea, if you see something, say something, can lead law enforcement on wild goose chases, and a system of citizen reporting can be abused by someone seeking to harm someone's character. This also applies to the idea of allowing family or police to petition a judge or temporarily take away guns of someone who is a threat to themselves or others. We currently have the Baker Act here in Florida. It has been documented that it has ruined the lives of innocent people who are a victim of someone just trying to cause trouble or someone. Many times we don't know how dangerous someone can be until after they commit an evil act. Exactly. You got a lot of those tattletales, snitches, are very frivolous. We can take steps to provide law enforcement and the courts with the tools to enhance public safety while at the same time making sure we protect civil liberties. I call it natural born rights and the right to due process. Enhance restrictions for proven violent or mentally ill. Restrictions must provide due process with in-person judicial review. And that did happen to Nicholas Cruz. There was due process. Restrictions must be temporary and easily lifted when conditions are met. Evidence to support restrictions must be stringent, recent within 30 days, and abundant. Enhanced restrictions on Baker Act. Temporary restrictions for persons involuntarily committed for violence who are an imminent threat to themselves or others under the Baker Act. Prohibited person adjudicated mentally defective or committed to a mental institution or violence for purchasing or possessing firearms. So, those are the areas you have to really look at. Sometimes there could be a constitutional challenge, in my view, in good faith. Article 1, Section 2 of the Florida Constitution, basic rights. However, everything's got to be done through judicial due process, which, if I'm correct, is Article 1, Section 9. So, yeah, let's definitely do that. I'm going to add the Florida Constitution here as well. Do it right. I'll do this after I finish here. SB 726 now moves to the Senate Appropriations Committee and will be heard Tuesday. Stay tuned. Danielle, John, and I are in Tallahassee making sure legislators are protecting our rights to own and bear arms. If 7026 passes the Senate Appropriations Committee, it will move to the Senate floor for a vote, and if passed, sent to the House for consideration. In Liberty, Alexander Snichter, president of Liberty First Network. So you're looking at the pros and cons and how can things be better. This is why we have these certain laws, like the Baker Act, has to be done in good faith, not in a bad, tyrannical manner. You got folks out there who take it for granted. And sometimes you got folks in the world that the police will protect them, and you can't not run amok. Remember, the fact is, you got a train coming by. Yep, there you go. Got to admit that. It is funny. So, one of those areas, do things in good faith. That's why the family structure is important. Love your neighbors as you love yourself. Respect each other. That's one of the main topics of why these people run amok and believe they can call a law for anything, even if you reflect to them, like farted, for example. Somebody's going to get offended. Please. These people are weak and pathetic. And they're examples of Orwellian snowflakes or saps. So, but it is good. Like I said, it is good. I'm proud that they're making this happen. And this next one here is came out recently about to take action from the same group, and it says an update on Florida public safety bills in response to the Parkland shooting. Senate version of the public safety bill, SB 726, in response to the Parkland shooting, passed the Senate Appropriations Committee and will now lead to the floor for the full Senate vote. House Appropriations Committee also passed their version of the public safety bill yesterday, which is very similar to the Senate bill. Great news, there are numerous attempts by legislators, including support from several Republicans, to amend 7026 to SB 7026 to ban semi-automatic weapons and high-capacity magazines. These attempts to ban guns failed in 3 different committees, despite tremendous pressure from the public speaking at these committees to support a ban on rifles. A recent poll showed a majority of Floridians support banning semi-automatic weapons, and we applaud the legislators who stood strong to stop any ban on rifles. A ban on rifles will not stop bad people from finding them. Yesterday, we reported on many aspects of the bill, many of which we support, such as allowing trained school personnel to conceal carry on campus. We know the Broward Sheriff's Office resource officer hid outside while students were being murdered. 3 faculty members showed great bravery and died while trying to shield students from the bullets. If these teachers had been armed, they might have been. They may have saved many lives as well as their own. We also support another section of the bill that deals with fortifying or hardening of schools. We can make our school campuses safer with proven methods, such as bulletproof glass and emergency locking system for classrooms. Part of the bill, we have concerns with the 3-day waiting period and increasing the minimum age for purchasing a rifle to 21 years. But for full disclosure, the bill language only applies to people who buy from a licensed dealer. People who buy from another person or who buy from a gun show don't have to be 21. The person can still purchase a rifle at a private sale. There's no restrictions on possessing a rifle between 18 and 21. It's important to note that it's already law that a person must be at least 21 age to purchase a handgun and to apply for a concealed weapons permit in Florida. We have 17 dead children and teachers with grieving families. We have a monumental failure of government from the Broward Sheriff's Department to the FBI. SB 726 may not be perfect, but it begins ending gun-free zones, which I agree. By allowing teachers and other faculty to be trained and certified on carriers to school campuses, the bill begins to fortify our school buildings. School shootings can happen 2 to 5 minutes. We must have school personnel ready to take action quickly, and not just a school resource officer on checking sheriff's department protocol while crouched outside. Take action, call your senator, and voice your concerns about the 3-year waiting period and increasing minimum age for purchasing a rifle to 21 years. Also tell them that you want to make sure that any bill that has passed must end gun-free zones by allowing teachers and other faculty to be trained and certified to carry on school campuses. SB 726 may be voted on by a full Senate in the next couple of days. The House still has to pass the version of the bill before they begin to negotiate the final bill. You can click onto that as well to find your state senator. So, like I said, there's certain language in there that needs to be terminated. The 3-year waiting period at state level for rifles at 21 years is meaningless. There's a report from the Tallahassee.com that someone broke in to a gun shop in Tallahassee. So, there you go. Black market. Hoorah, hoorah. And another thing I always tell people, it's good for young people to learn certain tools and equipment and teach them responsibility and so forth, and safety. Some folks say, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing that." So you want our kids to be dumb, stagnant, and happy, be dumbed down? That's what you're doing. And of course, structure of the family, guardianship's been horrendous towards this person. But, other people claim there's a multiple shooters. Another shooter in there. Well, like I said, hopefully that's not the case, but I wouldn't be surprised, especially when they're exploiting the daylights out of this. However, the truth of the matter is, there's some pros and cons in this bill, and if the areas you disagree, let them get that amended or terminate that language or clauses of this particular bill. I do support safety of the schools. So that's some great things about it. Like I said before, the police aren't obligated to protect you as an individual. It's plain and simple. And that's why during the time of the local options, the people say he made a claim he got the thing instantaneously in the same day and all that. No. But here's the thing it says here, up from elaws.us, Broward County Code of Ordinance. Law enforcement, Article 6, firearms 5-day waiting period, which is Ordinance 18-96. There shall be a mandatory 5-day waiting period, which shall be 5 days, excluding weekends and legal holidays, in connection with these sale of firearms occurring within Broward County, when the sale is transfer of money or other valuable consideration, and any part of the sales transaction is conducted on property to which the public has a right to access. Some examples of properties to which the public has a right of access are gun shows, firearm exhibits, wholesales, and retail stores, and flea markets. No person shall transfer or receive a firearm to or from another person for 5 days for the hour of such sales, including weekends and legal holidays, when the sale is transfer of money or any other valuable consideration, and any part of the sale transaction is conducted on property to which the public has a right of access. An uninterrupted, continuous, and cumulative aggregate of 120 hours must elapse between such sale and receipt of the firearm, excluding the hours of weekends and legal holidays. A person who violates this prohibition of this section is guilty of a violation of county ordinance, punishable as provided on Florida Statute 125.69, and the violation shall be prosecuted in the same manner as misdemeanor are prosecuted. So it's a misdemeanor offense. So when people talk about, hey, he got it so instantaneously and all that, he had to wait 5 days. So, to the folks in Broward County, your 5-day waiting period, which got enacted since early 1999, has failed once again. So, it's always the person, not the tool. And somebody got some of these yahoos out there believe they're smarter than everybody else. As well as a terrible message saying you should be 21 to purchase a rifle. Well, if you're old enough to serve your country and fight overseas at 18, old enough to be tried as an adult at 18, you should entitle to get firearms at the age of 18 and learn responsibilities. Like I've been telling people in the past, when you own one, you have higher. If you own and carry it, you have a higher standard, a new level up to show you gotta be responsible and never use it out of malice or arrogance, but out of love and honor. I learned that from the Utah Gun Exchange. I care about you. The reason I'm carry, because I give a damn about my neighbors. I don't want to see innocent people getting beat on. Some of these folks, they like to watch them pick their nose. It's sick. That's the terrible message. Oh, let the police do it. No. That's a wet dream. I'm going to talk about that in a moment, so stay tuned. Cool. So, next one here I'm going to be doing from the Mises Wire. Came out yesterday. It says here, lack of police accountability shows the social contract isn't working by Ray McMacken. This is commentary. You can listen to it on a Radio Rothberg podcast. In the wake of the Florida shooting earlier this month, Broward County police deputies are being accused of hiding outside the school while students were being murdered inside. Moreover, the both sheriff's department and the FBI are being accused of failing to follow up or unclear, and repeats the threats made the school shooter against others. The FBI already admits it failed to follow its own protocol when it fails to pass on key information to the Miami field office. The details in the specific case have yet to be analyzed and investigated, but even if it's shown that both sheriff's office and the FBI were incompetent or indifferent in taking action against the perpetrator, it will still remain exceedingly unlikely that any specific government agents or agency will be held accountable in any meaningful way. If there are legal settlements, the taxpayers will be on the hook for it, not for the people responsible. Moreover, if the history is any guide, both agencies will use any demonstrated incompetence to argue for larger budgets and more privileges for their agencies. Yes, the wet dream. Do you remember 9/11 with the whole Homeland Security thing? Let's get all these big budgets and piss your money down the drain? Very fantastic example. But the police are not here to protect you. Further complicated situation is the fact that the U.S. Supreme Court has made it clear that law enforcement agencies are not required to provide protection to the citizens who are forced to pay the police for their services. Yeah. Could we say extortion? In the case, the Cheney versus Winnebago, in a town of Castle Rock versus Gonzales, the Supreme Court has ruled that both police agencies are not obligated to provide protection of citizens. In other words, the police are well within their rights to pick and choose when to intervene to protect the lives and properties of others, even when the treatment is apparent. In both these court cases, clear and repeated threats were made against the safety of children, but the government agency chose not to take no action. A consideration of these facts did not necessarily lead us to the conclusion that law enforcement agencies are somehow on the hook for every violent act committed by private citizens. This reality does belie the often made claim. However, the police agencies deserve the tax money and obedience of local citizens because the agencies keep us safe. That's a quote. That's a wet dream, right? Nevertheless, we are told there is an agency agreement here, a social contract between the government agency and the taxpayer and citizens. And by nature of being a contract, we are meant to believe this is a two-way street. Taxpayers are required to submit to a government monopoly on force and to pay these agency taxes. In return, these government agents will provide services. In case of police agencies, these services are summed up by the phrase "to protect and serve," a motto that has in recent decades been adopted by numerous police agencies. But what happened when those police agencies do not protect and serve? That is what happens when one party in this alleged social contract doesn't keep its end of the bargain. The answer, very little. The taxpayer will still have to pay their taxes and submit to police agencies as lawful authority. the agencies or individual agents are forced to pay as a result of lawsuits, it is the taxpayers who will pay for that too. Oh, sure, the senior leadership positions may change, but the enormous agency budgets will remain. The government agents themselves will continue to collect generous salaries and pensions, and no government will surrender its monopoly on the use of force. That is a fact. And I have talked about them in my past episodes. And I did just look up sovereign immunity and tort liability. You'd be surprised. It's honest on public employees' obligations. They're not obligated. So I will continue on here. A long history of lackluster action. Now it's found to be true that Broward County deputies protected themselves while people nearby were being killed. It certainly wouldn't be the first time. At the Columbine Massacre in 1999, the shooters roamed the school for nearly 50 minutes. Police waited outside for a SWAT team to arrive in order to minimize the risk to police. Or the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office at Columbine to serve and protect was nothing more than a public relations gimmick. Since then, at least in theory, the strategy has changed. This is part of why the alleged hesitation on the part of the Broward County deputies is so troubling to observers. Police are no longer supposed to wait around for assistance. They are supposed to engage the shooters immediately. If it is unclear this strategy is being applied anywhere other than schools. After all, as the Las Vegas shooting unfolded, police waited for 75 minutes to confront the gunman, again in order to minimize the threat to police. As far as the police knew, however, during this period, the gunman was still alive and had the ability to resume shooting into the city below. Nor is the lack of alacrity displayed only during shootings. As we reported, during the Ferguson, Missouri riots in 2014, private property owners could only rely on private security and the volunteer oath keepers. The police, meanwhile, were concentrated on protecting government buildings when leaving the private sector mostly on its own. Moreover, when it became clear that the oath keepers were stepping in to fill the gaps left by police, the police took time out from their busy schedules to threaten the volunteers with arrest. It happens. Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, there's an example of the FBI being asleep in the switch that lead up to the 9/11 attacks in 2001. After being paid countless billions year after year to provide protection, the FBI's greatest failure resulted not in any meaningful accountability, but in the budget increase for the agency. Through it all, though, were repeatedly told that the government police agencies provide safety in exchange for all that generous tax revenue these agencies received. And generous is the right word. Scott Pearson, the deputy who retired after being shown to wait outside during the school attack, was collecting more than $101,000 per year as a deputy. That's double the median income of $50,446 in Broward County. Now, having retired, he will collect a generous pension, possibly for many decades. Police personnel like to portray themselves as beleaguered members of the working class, but in reality, they were all well-paid government employees compensated for work that is less dangerous than the work done by janitors, roofers, and truckers. And the pension benefits are especially generous, which is why, according to an analyst by Rich Collard at Forbes, police officers are among America's fastest-growing class of millionaires. Collard notes that these government employees, including police officers, firefighters, teachers, and federal bureaucrats, will be paid something near their full salaries every year until death, after retiring in their mid-50s. That is equivalent to retirement sum worth billions of dollars. Year after year, taxpayers are expected to supply government agents and government workers with this generous compensation, while all the time also thanking them for their service. As experience of multiple cases of public shootings and unrest suggest, however, it is unclear what exactly these services are, or whether or not the taxpayer has any recourse when the government fails to provide them. A contract that isn't. After all, if the federal courts have made it clear that government police agencies are under no obligation to provide services, it's simply not the proper to portray the government as an entity that provides services in return for tax revenues. But the note of the lack of symmetry in any assumed contract at work here. The obligations for taxpayers are extremely specific. Each taxpayer is on the hook to pay the very specific amounts laid out in the tax law. Penalties are imposed when the taxpayer doesn't keep up his end of the so-called bargain. Exactly. If you and I do it, they'll crucify us, right? That's one thing that really boggles the mind, my friends. I will continue on here. The other side of the equation, however, is extremely vague. The services expected from law enforcement are subject to the discretion of government agents who decide what laws are enforced and where and when. The sheer volume of laws in the books will allow police to pick and choose since, of course, the expenditures of police resources must be prioritized according to the wants of some group or group of people. To those set the priorities, however, are not the taxpayers. Thus, ultimately, police agencies must expend months of effort and immense amounts of money to catch petty drug offenders while violent crisis situations receive less attention. Should the taxpayers feel they're not getting their money's worth, there's little they can do about it. They simply can't void the social contract we hear so much about. The obligations of the taxpayers are assumed to exist perpetuity. The other side of the contract, well, that's for the courts to decide, and not surprisingly, they have ruled in the government's favor. And let's be very frank, I'm not going to condemn police officers as a whole. You got your good individuals out there, however, it's in the books. And all you got to do is do a little homework. And I have addressed some of this in my past couple episodes. Please read. You don't have to just hear my voice, you can read it yourselves. That's why this whole protect and serve is not guaranteed. When they do their oath, protect and defend the community at the best of their ability. Remember, they're human beings. They're not knights in shining armor. But I'm not saying they're all bad folks. There's some damn good ones out there. I honor them. I honor them completely. But one thing for sure, how far are you going to let this last? Do you want to support these firearm bans? Only thing you're doing is making you more of a slave, a government dependent. And that's dangerous. Many of folks haven't learned a damn thing about 9/11. Firearm-free zones don't work. So it's up to every individual to take that initiative. You're in the first line of defense. When it comes to a crime situation, you're on your own. You have to fight back to it. The police is actually there to do reports and investigate. And that's why the Coral Springs Police Department were very infuriated on what happened. So, someone posted this on Twitter. Sheriff Tracy Murphy from Denton County Sheriff's Office, based out of Texas. With the recent tragedy in Florida, I want to make clear my policy on responding to an active shooter. All commissioned deputies, if you respond to an active shooter, you are expected to take immediate action. We do not stage and wait for SWAT. We do not take cover in the parking lot. We do not wait for another agency. We go in and do our duty. We go in to engage and stop the shooter and save lives. If for any reason you cannot allow this directive, please inform your supervisor and we will work to get you reassigned. Thank you for all you do every day. Sheriff Tracy Murphy, Denton County Sheriff's Office, is in Denton, Texas. He makes a quote here too. On Romans 13:4, for he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is the servant of God, an avenger who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer. That's a thing, a saying, we all have obligations and duties. That's a good quote. Whether if you believe in God or not, but it's a great quote. Something to think about. Always look at things in the bigger picture. And for those folks out there, they're going around or welling snowflakes and saps, saying you're with us or you're against us, trying to use the state and try to condemn people who are firearms owners and members of the NRA. Yeah, I do say you're treasonous. And here's a great quote from Frederick Douglass. Where justice is denied, where poverty is enforced, where ignorance prevails, and where only one class is made to feel that society is an organized conspiracy to oppress, rob, and degrade them, neither person nor property will be safe. Frederick Douglass. And you can't call me a racist, my friends, because it's not going to work. One thing for sure. We're all on the first line of defense. We're all natural-born individuals, regardless of where you're from or what you look like. Never, ever think you're a peasant, a pissant, an Uncle Tom or Aunt Jemima to the state. That's why I would say demoniac resistance. I defy all forms of tyranny. My religious views, that's on Facebook. Well, my friends, that is it. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you sent something that's interesting you want to check out, wherever you do, please address your correspondences with decorum. You keep me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Minds.com, FutureNet.club, Patreon.com/LookAlert3, with 3 eyes. If you want to be a patron, that'd be great. I would love you for it. You can hit me on Gab, gab.ai, more of a freer speech version of Twitter. In addition, you can get me email me at lookinglucknumber3@gmail.com or to cryptic ones, lookinglucknumbers03@protonmail.com. Ooh, my friends, that's all for now. Once again, thank you for your time. But always remember that demoniac resistance helps the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.